Andrew?
Just say pro tip.
Pro tip.
Pro tip with enthusiasm.
Pro tip with enthusiasm.
Pro tip? What?
Pro tip.
No. Pro tip.
Pro tip.
All right, pro tip time. I'm hoping to do these pro tip series every week, maybe every 2 weeks, and hopefully just give a quick tip away for anyone who's working in coffee, who owns a coffee shop, or who's looking to start a career in coffee. And these are just things I've learned along the way that have been super helpful to me in the last couple of years, and I want to pass them on so they're helpful for you as well. So if you're thinking about starting a coffee shop, you're probably thinking about all the awesome things that come along with running a coffee shop. Drinking lots of coffee, seeing your friends all the time, being super social, having the kind of cool place in town. There are a lot of cool things about running a coffee shop, owning a coffee shop. But when the rubber meets the road, there's also a lot of other stuff that most people don't begin to think about when you open a coffee shop. You are running a full-on business, and this thing, once you start, does not stop. You know, at times I've found it to be a little overwhelming, all the things that are on your plate, all the people that you're caring for, your employees. And in the world of coffee, there's a lot of stuff about how to make coffee, how to nerd out on coffee, but there seems to be very little. There's more and more right now, which is awesome, about leadership within the coffee industry, some of the back end of the coffee industry as far as numbers, and some of the kind of bigger picture things you need to know about systems and all of that sort of stuff if you're going to run a coffee business. So my first pro tip this week is to read a book. And I wanted to recommend to you guys a book that I've read probably 4 times now. It's sort of like my textbook, my coffee shop owning Bible right now for everything I need to know. So that is What I Know About Running a Coffee Shop by Mr. Colin Harmon. So the first thing to say is that this is not like a guidebook that he is proclaiming to be the best coffee shop business type book. He's very clear about saying this is what he knows about running coffee shops, but he's opened a few, and I found that the information here has been super helpful. So in this book there is a tiny bit of coffee nerdery, how to make better coffee, steaming milk, all those sorts of things, but more and more what you're going to find here is the back end of running a coffee business. So we're talking staffing, we're talking numbers, we're talking growth, we're talking all sorts of things that you don't often hear about in the coffee biz. So I would highly recommend reading this book if you are interested in opening a coffee shop, if you're thinking about it, or if you do already, because this is going to give you some perspective and some insight into the coffee industry that is really invaluable. Colin's gone through all of his openings of his shops and sort of analyzed the best practices and written them down in here for you. So he goes over how to do a job interview, how to think about profit and loss and your pricing of your products. He talks about how to find a spot to lease and things like that you might not initially think about with water supply and electricity, things you want to know before you sign on the dotted line for a lease. One of my favorite chunks of the book is when Colin talks about kind of sequencing and systems when you're delivering beverages. And I think a lot of times coffee shop owners think, if only I had that piece of equipment, or if I had a new espresso machine or a new grinder, we could be faster and serve more customers. And he goes over some of the sequencing that needs to happen to have a truly fast and effective cafe. And that really challenged some of my thinking about, do I need a 2-group or a 3-group machine? A lot of us feel like we're so busy that we need a 3-group machine and that we're gonna need 2 people working on it. And so he kind of goes through a sequence from order to exit of a customer and how you can line those up. And some of the numbers he put out really humbled me and go, okay, I can really surely tweak my speed as a barista, but also the speed of my team and the systems of my team. So that was really helpful for me, and I think a lot of people would benefit from that because they're going to go spend money on machines instead of thinking about how could they organize the structure from start to finish of their transactions with their customers. One of the best things Colin has in here is the basics. And this is just a list of things that if you're not doing in your coffee shop, you really need to start doing them. And a lot of these are really great and really, like, I've always thought, yes, that's exactly right. But the best one is have room temperature butter. I don't know if you've ever been to a coffee shop, you order like a pastry or a muffin and they give you butter and it's fridge cold temperature. It's horrible. So just stuff like that. Get newspapers delivered, keep the washrooms clean, keep the doors open, don't stand in the doorway. If someone comes to the counter, the staff got to stop talking immediately. So it's just sort of stuff that is really important to think about if you're going to run a coffee shop. And he talks about how to get new customers in the morning, how to get new customers at lunchtime, all this sort of stuff. So I can't recommend this book enough. I'm not friends with this guy. I don't know him. He has not asked me to endorse his book. I just ordered it on Amazon or whatever it was, and it has become like a true textbook for me for running a coffee shop. I often will go back to it and look at his numbers, especially about the margins of profitability, and that's something that a lot of coffee shops struggle with. I think a lot of coffee shops will just be breaking even, but how do you make your coffee shop profitable, turn a profit, and make it so that it can be something sustainable so you can take care of employees? Anyways, pick this book up, read it 3 or 4 times. If you are interested at all in coffee, you need to read this book. What I know about running coffee shops, Colin Harmon, pick it up, and that concludes our pro tip.